I'm glad you came down, Kyle. I was sharing your page and your content with George, and I was just like, "Yo, what do you think about having this guy on? He's doing some super dope stuff." I actually, first time I met you, I was with another guy I was trying to start a podcast with, Maurice, and you were having something similar to like I guess I don't know the word, but it was like a gathering of men, and we were just kind of like talking about like different struggles and things that we were facing. And I was like, oh, this is dope. And it's in West Philly. You're 3 minutes from where I live. So I was like, oh shit, I didn't even know we had this kind of stuff in the area. So I'm glad you came down. I'm excited to hear your story. I'm officially welcoming you to the Man Cave podcast. You already know my boy George. You met him earlier. And really, we're just going to jump straight into it. And I want you to tell the people a little bit about yourself, what it is that you do exactly, and, explain what your business is in a sense.
Certainly. Well, first and foremost, thank y'all for having me. I'm Kyle the Conductor, the founding executive director of the ECO Foundation. ECO stands for Education, Culture, and Opportunities. I'm a full-time father, which is my newest role. Been a husband for a little longer than that, so that's like different. And but I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I've been selling things since I was little. My dad had books of poetry. I would sell at his open mics. Yeah, you're going to be selling stuff for me too.
Gotta get him a mic.
Yeah, right. He has, really thoughtful contributions, but we're going to save him for later. But yeah, so I've been hustling since I was a young boy. And when I was 26, I decided to quit my day job as an assistant principal and start my for-profit, which later became my nonprofit. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. Awesome. And so this full-time entrepreneur, just doing this from the mud. And there was a turning point, which I also discussed later, where things really went from no profit and Uber around the clock and selling wristbands and buttons and stickers and T-shirts out my trunk, to, a six-figure lifestyle that can support my family and I can work from home and do what I need to do. So I'm really fortunate and blessed to be able to do the work we do. And I'm happy to be here today.
Awesome. So, what is it that you do? Because like I said, when I met you, you were having men kind of like talking about men stuff. So what is it that you were hoping to accomplish when you started the business?
You know what? So I guess I kind of gleaned over that. So like as the founding executive director, now CEO, and the only difference is like how many departments you have or whatever, but it's the same thing, but it's more of a nonprofit title. My goal has always been to create safe spaces for people to do what they need to do so they can become the person we need them to be as a culture, as a society. And what we do through the ECO Foundation is three major parts. So we have the creative education, which is meetings and meetups, like when people are just kicking it. They don't even know that they're learning. We call it edutainment. That's actually what I'm getting my doctorate in at Temple University.
Congrats.
Appreciate it. I'll be done whenever I turn this stuff in. But I'm working on the dissertation now. So it's really me versus me for like the last year and a half, which has, been fun. Not at all. But a couple of my friends finished the program. It was a cohort model. So shout out to Dr. Bowen. She's inspiring me because we started at our grad program together and decided to do this journey together. So anyway, so through that, it's about creative education because in the K-12 space or K-to-college space, you're more likely to stay engaged and pay attention and finish what you're assigned and go the extra mile if you're having fun. Many of you, I'm sure, remember listening or checking out the egg drop project when you were in high school, or like what cell phone cases are doing that now, or like, Jeopardy was always fun, or whenever you saw like the cart come out with the TV on it, it's gonna be a good time. So our job is to make every learning experience fun, whether that's in a class space or a community space. And that's kind of what our men's group was. It was Man Crown Monday. And that was our we just bought we were renting the community center. That was October 2020, actually. And we moved in there August 2020. But we've been a nonprofit since 2018. So yeah. And then the other part is healthy food. So our job is to make sure that our families have healthy food and resources. And we do that through the help of the Young Bull program. And Bull stands for Bold Unstoppable Leaders. So we actually pay young people as young as 10 years old to learn and serve. So they learn anything from sign language to self-defense, self-love, communication, music production, business development, do a lot of debating lately. So they learn a skill and then they They're paid to do that, and then they're paid to help us pack up food, resources, toiletries, and distributing them to 44 households within walking distance of the Eco Center. And the rest of it gets distributed on the corner of 54th and Market. So that's what we do. We pay them through that. We have over 200 young people signed up over the years. We do cohorts right now. We have about 25 people enrolled. It's a sliding scale of how much the financial incentive that we offer, but it's anywhere from $5 an hour if you're underage as a thank you for being here, to $20 an hour if you're between the ages of 21 and 26. We were originally going up to 24, but people have been with us for a couple of years and they're 26 now. So those are the things we do as an organization. And what I do is make sure that everything we're doing is mission aligned, vision aligned. We went from 2 employees this time last year, to 17 right now. So we've been growing ridiculously. I've been fortunate enough to write over $1 million in grants in the last 18 months. We also have a grant writer that we work with, Amaya Howard from Samaritan Grants. She's now our director of development. So we actually have 3 contractors and 14 employees, but 13 not including myself. So just to grow like this has been wild. So it's funny, I was talking to my wife and his godmom, her best friend, this weekend, and I just started working, the month of December, I just started working less than 50 hours a week.
Wow.
And I was sick during Thanksgiving, so that was like still 35, 40 hours a week. And literally December, I'm like, everything's delegated, all the systems we built, when everyone just started working in September for the most part. So we had people that have been around that we were able to, once we got these multi-year grants, we were able to offer them more consistent work. So they're not just coming in on a Saturday to work with the Young World program, but now they can work Tuesdays, Thursdays at our after school hangout, beyond the bars, built a music studio in one of our empty apartments upstairs. We were able to buy the building last year. So we went from renting in 2020, we bought the building November 5th. It's $500,000, 6 units, 2 commercial, 4 residential. And it's just been a blessing to be able to do that. We raised $100K in 100 days, $116,000 in 100 days was a closing cost. And we did that I'll talk about how we did that a little later. I mean, that's one of the questions. But we want to show our people that we're there for generations to come. You know, we're not just a flash in the pan. We're not just here to take some pictures and keep it moving. And if we didn't hire this marketing team, shout out to Rose Golden, who's a phenomenal consultant. But if we didn't hire her, we wouldn't document anything. I mean, we're moving. We take pictures and stuff. We don't post how we should. We don't have things looking all pretty because it's not about that. It's about the work. A lot of things we do is in silence and, real G's, lasagna, blah, blah, blah. But I think what's important is that, with service first. So that's what we about, and that's what we've been about, and that's what we're going to keep doing.
All right. I mean, that's a great story. I mean, just to hear the success that you've already reached. But I do want to ask, what was the motivation to even start this off? You said that you made the decision at 26, but what happened at 26 where you was like, this is the time that I need to start changing and start doing the good that you're doing?
I thought about the Tupac song Changes. I see no changes, but I did wake up in the morning and I asked myself, So I think to take it a step further back, right? Like I can't talk about 26 if I don't talk about 16. And at 16, I was suspended from school for whatever reason. I think it was like junior year. It was probably like literally farting in class or selling bootleg CDs. It was something like really, or talking during a fire drill. Junior year suspensions were stupid.
Yeah.
8th and 9th grade were like, whatever. But either way, I was home from school and there was a movie called Accepted. And it was about these kids who couldn't get into college, so they started their own school. And it was called Southampton Institute of Technology. Yep. And I was home from school watching it.
You never seen it?
It was pretty good.
Yeah, Jonah Hill.
Jonah Hill.
Fake their degrees?
So
it was the whole thing. Like they didn't get into
Okay.
the colleges they wanted to, and to not disappoint their parents, they ended up making up a whole college.
I remember
Yeah, it's
that.
an
but I
old
didn't
movie.
watch it.
Columbus Short was in it. It was he was like the token black guy, but it was cool because at the end of the movie, spoiler alert,
After like 20 years, spoiler.
All right. If you haven't seen it yet, but they had to prove in court that they were actually learning. So like the class that was just swimming or lounging in a pool was actually like meditation or mindfulness. Or the class that was skateboarding was like they had to build it, so it was engineering, and it was. So I was like, wow, learning can be fun all the time.
Yeah.
So how do we make learning fun? And then my first job out of college was at an AIDS service organization not too far from here, but they had a youth drop-in center. So I was a center manager. So I enjoyed making sure food was there and people had, laundry services and whatever, like unhoused youth. But what I really cared about was the workshops. I really appreciated, like, for the first time, being able to facilitate meaningful programs. So for me, that was where I first, like, got the teacher bug, if you will. Well, actually, that's Cat. I started teaching in 2011 in an internship. I was teaching cameras converting communities, this thing I made up where, like, young people get to learn how to use cameras and write scripts. And we made gun violence PSAs down in Wilmington, Delaware. I did that for 2 summers. And then my first job out of college, actually, I was substitute teaching before that. I think I forget how much I was doing education. But I didn't really get the bug to really care. I think I wasn't training with, like, trauma informed. And, I was I was doing things, but I didn't know to put people first before that job. And I got fired from there about a year later. And then I was hired as a history teacher. And then I went from a teacher to a dean of students, which I was really an overseer for other Black and brown children at a credit recovery program. And then I went from being an overseer to an assistant principal or a site coordinator. And I'm like, yo, I'm ready to quit. I can't do this anymore. Kids are graduating and not doing anything, or they're still getting shot, or they're still doing the shooting, or they're still, like, getting locked up. We're not doing our job effectively. And I got fired from my last job for allowing a young man who was 6 months younger than me to stay at my house. I know I couldn't do that. I know I wasn't supposed to, but it was raining. He got kicked out of shelter. Me and my ex picked him up like 1 a.m. It was like 11 p.m. We got home around 1. And word got back. And I was already a crappy employee. So for the record, like, I was dealing with a lot. I'm a gunshot survivor. So the shooting happened January. It's coming up on 10 years. So January 1st, 2013. And I got hired in October. So, but my final surgery from the shooting was in August. So I was still, like, perked up, still drinking, smoking, just, numbing, escaping, disassociating. So by the time I started the job, I was like, well, my life is definitely better than theirs. And what I'm doing is focusing on fixing everyone else's problems instead of fixing my own. So I'm listening to how this person's making progress going to therapy, and I never went to therapy. And I'm just kind of comparing myself to them and just, like, living vicariously through them and, like, going above and beyond. And ultimately, I guess, I bump into them sometimes, and I guess I was a positive light in their lives. But to me, I was, at least how I viewed it, I was not as helpful as I could have been. So I'm glad I was fired and found the classroom. And then at 26, after putting my notice in, they gave me the assistant principal position. And I was like, oh, cool. Yeah, I want to quit here. Thanks for the promotion. But, I had a really successful event in August 2016, and I realized I can sell tickets and merch, and I can get to the bag. I made like $1,100 in a night, and I've never made that much money before.
Wow, yeah.
And my rent was like $650 for a 1-bedroom. The market was different, but and through that, I realized, like, maybe this entrepreneurship thing is possible. Mm-hmm. Maybe I can chase my dreams while I'm still fast enough to catch them, and that's what we did. So. That's what determined me quitting my day job to start my first LLC, Encore Entertainment. I got it back September 2016, put my 1 month's notice in, and I ain't looked back since. Haven't had a boss since.
Well, shout out to you, because that shit ain't easy. It's coming from somebody who's been in real estate for 6 years. Working for yourself shit is not easy.
I'm glad to know we can cuss on this.
Oh, yeah.
Listen, this is what we do.
Right. I was like, yeah, this crap is challenging.
Silliness.
Yeah, right. Yeah. This is forked up.
And side note, for anybody watching not from Philly, $650 for a 1-bedroom. Now you got to be in Kensington, and if you don't know Kensington, then
that's a studio, maybe. Yeah. Maybe a studio, and right. You got to be out there in zombie land, looking World War Z out there.
Seriously.
Yeah. That's because, in that market they have, I actually did some opioid research like my second year of my doctoral program, and completely unrelated, but I just want extra practice. And I found out they actually they're called like safe zones. Yeah. So like for within like a 1 mile radius or so, it's an open air market. You can sell, distribute, use, heroin specifically and opioids, but not, crack is still crack, weed is still weed, everything else is there. But yeah, opioids, yeah, sure. And ironically, the fastest growing rate of addictions is actually from 16 to 24-year-old Black men. That's the fastest growing group to become addicted to opioids. So from Percocets.
Man, that's scary to hear. I have two brothers who are basically teenagers at this point, and I'm just like, it's a full-time job just trying to keep them out of trouble and keep them alive. And then to hear, that they're the fastest growing demographic for something like that, and it's so easy to get your hands on this stuff.
Yeah.
It's like damn near, it's like a more of a chance for you to get into drugs and strung out on stuff than it is for you to not.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Or sell it at least.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
started selling weed and Zanies when I was 14. So I caught a weapons charge when I was 14. And luckily I was tried as a child or a juvenile. And I just wanted to be something I wasn't. Like my cousins, they sold weed and they lived in the hood, and I lived in Roxborough. We had deers and
Oh, come on, Kyle.
I had both parents, like not in the same house, but my dad lived up the street from my grandma's house,
Right.
and I lived, within the same two lights. And but I wanted to be something I wasn't because I didn't know what being black was. It wasn't until I went to Cheney University, the first HBCU, that I recognized like you could be black from Montana, black from the suburbs, black from the farms, it's all black, internationally black, like. So, but at the time I wanted something else. So I think that as long as you have, even if you have the right guidance, you have to make sure that young people love themselves. 'Cause I didn't love myself. So ultimately I would do things that, people who love themselves just don't do. So, because I think there's a certain level of confidence and assuredness that comes. Like people who are not confident and assured may want to start becoming an entrepreneur because it seems easy. I can work for myself or whatever, or it seems like, I have. Most of the time, if you're trying to do it that way, trying to get to the quick bag, it's not going to last in the first place. But also, it's typically because it's like an MLM of some sort, and you just can't see that it's an MLM. But you're not going to make money if you're not confident. If you don't the turning point. Once again, for me, I didn't really get into it, but was therapy. So when I started therapy, and I started trusting myself, I learned how to forgive myself, and then I could love myself. I actually started with forgiveness, then trust, and then love, and that was 2017. And my wife wasn't my wife at the time, but got me going to therapy. And my brother, who was shot that night as well, I was shot 6 times. He was shot once in the foot, bottom of his foot, hit his hands and feet up. And he was going to therapy every Tuesday for a year. And I didn't go to therapy until 2017, so 4 years later. And then started ECO. I was in grad school at Lincoln University, the second HBCU, and my professor,
Subtle shade.
I mean, they're the second. The first to award degrees, but Congress defines HBCU as Cheney University, whatever. 1837, numbers don't lie. But the point is, and if y'all not from the area, it's a huge thing. I mean, what's wild is other schools don't even know Cheney and Lincoln exist because we're the first and second, but they're just Howard, they're FAMU, they're Tuskegee, they're Morehouse, they're like, what, Cheney what? But hey, we wouldn't be y'all without us. But I digress. Was one of my little sister's vocab words, digress. Shout out to Autumn. But yeah, so the whole thing that I was talking about, I forgot.
It's cool. So
we'll keep it pushing.
Yeah, staying on the topic of being an entrepreneur, you said your business at one point was for profit, right?
Yes.
So why did you go from for profit to being a nonprofit?
Thank you. I was in class. I was actually in between classes. So when I went to grad school, I had a scholarship that expired and I had to go that year, that fall. It was 5 years out of undergrad. And I took the scholarship and I was taking 21 credits in the fall, 21 credits in the spring to graduate with a whole master's program in 1 year. And which was normal to me because in college I took 21 credits the same semester I had pledged my fraternity. Same semester I graduated and did 5 internships. It's just, when I want something, I get it. And I think that's the thing. You have to, and that was probably to my own detriment, but I made it. So at this time, I'm taking 21 credits. I'm hosting open mics around the city. And one of them, specifically, this was a Thursday. So my day started teaching in a classroom, 9th graders. And then I went to do an after school program for middle schoolers from West Philly, 5030 Media, to right next to what was one of the grad schools. So I'll just say that. So 18th Street North, Nicetown. And then I went from there to 30th and Market to go to grad classes. And I left there from 5:30 to 8:30 and went to go host an open mic from 9 to 2, 9 to 1. And I would get home around 2. And while I was hosting, I would also sell merchandise. So that was my days. So
I got 2 hours of sleep a day.
I mean, I was 26. I wasn't sleeping. When I was 27, about to be 28, I wasn't sleeping. But what I was doing was I was bagging up wristbands, buttons, and stickers. And I would slide these little inserts I'll actually give a couple of y'all. These little inserts, I have like at the time QR codes wasn't really a thing, but I had like the website on one side, I had the information on the other. By purchasing this, you're supporting this program, because what we did was we sold tickets, t-shirts, and merchandise to fund our youth programming at schools, to fund really anything we were doing. We had a Mansa men's group. My son's first name was actually Mansa, but Mansa was like an acronym that stood for something like mentoring, achievement, something. But either way, he saw me, Dr. Tucho saw me and said, what are you doing? I explained, well, if I can sell 140 of these and we'll have enough money to blah, blah, blah. He said, just start a nonprofit. I said, it's not that easy. Like, you just start a nonprofit. Yeah. He was like, nah, just do it. It'll be expensive on the front end, but it'll be worth it. I'm like, I don't know, man, because, that's like thousands of dollars. I don't have thousands. I barely had $650 to pay rent. This is 2018. This is February 2018. And I just had an Uber passenger, Joshua J. Myers or something, JJ something. I don't know. He told me about Yippee-Ki-Yay Nonprofit Solutions. He had a nonprofit. We were the same age. I'm like, you have a nonprofit? You're only like 26, 27, 28. He was like, yeah, well, I went to Yippee-Ki-Yay Nonprofit Solutions. You can actually pay in payments. It's not like a commercial. But they don't exist anymore. You can pay in installments. And they do all the paperwork for you. They have a vault. They give you a concierge. They walk you through the process. Boom. I had him in the end of 2017 and doing Uber. And then 2018, this happened February. My professor said, just do it. I gave it some thought. That was like a Thursday. The next night, I was vending at an event. And then I felt like, yo, now's the time to do it. I took the money I made from there and I put a down payment on. That next Wednesday, I said, let me just put on my credit card. And by April 30th, we got our 501c3 letter in the mail. So, it changed the game, it changed the trajectory, and it changed what we were able to get. So I think when you have a for-profit, and it's funny, we're actually about to start a for-profit now. We need more wiggle room, more flexibility. I learned about EITCs, or turning a nonprofit into an EITC, and then being able to use your taxes that you would owe. Instead of paying it to the government, you can give it to the nonprofit, either directly or through a donor advised fund, by going through like a Schwab or Vanguard or Fidelity or whomever. So you learn more, you do better. And but at the time, I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know how I was going to fund this. I'm like, nonprofit, you don't make money. That's a misconception. Like, you can make all the money. Red Cross is a nonprofit. Mm-hmm. Like, there's all these big companies that are nonprofits, but the way it works is at the end of your year, your money has to be accounted for. So it can't be considered profit. It can go to your overhead. So we're going to finish this year. December 11th, we still got some time to hear back from some grants, but we'll probably finish this year at like 750, 725. But we have in the bank, like between our different bank accounts, probably, and I'm really transparent. The bottom of our website has like our budget. It has like our 501c3. It has every articles, bylaws, all that at the bottom of our homepage, theecofoundation.com or theecofoundation.org. It'll take you to the same place. But by the end of this year, we'll have like $300,000 in the bank, cash. That doesn't even be profited. $300,000. That money's accounted for. That's overhead. That's our mortgage is already. Our mortgage for the whole year is already in a different bank account already. Like, that's just the same bank that gave us the mortgage is their bank. The money is in there. We don't have to worry about it. But then we have our payroll. So like everyone's payroll, including bonuses. We were fortunate enough to give out $1,000 to every employee. Everyone gets a paid month off to hibernate, dig in. What are your goals going into hibernation? We're going to meet back up at our Welcome Black Party, January 14th. And then January 16th, our first day of service, MLK Day. But during that month off, like, people are putting their head down and spending time with family, self, coming back whole. Recharging, yeah. Right. So, but either way, that money's accounted for. We have it in there, but it's profitable. But our first year, we made $33,000. Mm-hmm. We had a $20,000 grant. One of my frat brothers hooked me up. He was at some company, saw the work we was doing. Bartram's Gardens gave us $10K, and we raised some more money for food because kids didn't have lunch or whatever. So 33 the first year, 167 the second year. 33 the first year, like 60, 70 the second year, 2019. And then 167, we jumped. And then last year we had 672 or 667, something like that. You can check it out. It's on our website. And this year we should be at like 725, 750. I don't know what they made this deposit. I filled out a form. It's funny because the funders who really give you bread don't want any recognition. They gave us $205,000. They gave us $5,000 to go to the Poconos on a retreat, Took my whole staff out there, 17 of us. Well, that was people's kids, so like 15 people plus kids. My wife, so 14. And either way, we're out in the Poconos, and we, they paid for that for self-care. That was only for self-care and connection and nature and all of that. And then they gave us $200,000, $100,000 for operating, and $100,000 for the Young Boy program I told you about.
Yeah.
We don't get a lot of operational budgets. They don't want any record. They don't want a social media shout out. They don't want nothing. Like they don't. But then people who give us like $12,500 or $3,000 or $5,000,
put me on your gram. Put me on.
They want shout outs. They want you to write testimonials. They want you to like detailed breakdowns of how you spent the money. Like they're really like whoa, buddy. Like, so but I'm still happy for all of that. Everything adds up.
You think the motivation between the two is just different?
I think is when you have less, you're more worried about what people are doing with it. The companies who are paying, like they're a nonprofit arm of a major for-profit company. Okay. So they have 6 areas that they care. No, 6 or 7 targeted. 6. It's a hexagon. 6 targeted areas that they focus on, and we're the fellowship. And they have the justice. And they have even animal rights. Like they 6 just target areas that the for-profit company cares about, and they split millions of dollars up between. Like each cohort, it's like 10 organizations each cohort, 60 orgs getting millions and millions of dollars. And they don't care because they just got to not clean the money, but they know that they trust us to make the right decisions because we're on the front lines. And some people don't trust you to make the right decisions for your community. I'm not from West Philly. I live in West Philly. Well, at the time I lived in West Philly when we opened the center, I lived upstairs. But that's why we have a community advisory board. We get this money, but I can't make decisions for people. Like that's not, I have an idea of what works, but how do we bring those young people that live in our community, their parents, their families, their guardians, the store owners who care to come together, join this community advisory board and suggest help us in better ways to support them? We get the money, so let's make sure we're putting our money where our mission is.
I do have to ask, so much success that you've had, and I looked up 90% of nonprofits fail after 2 to 3 years. And you're on the up and up and everything seems to go so well. What do you think you did differently that the other 90% didn't do?
So by going to therapy, my second therapist, my first therapist was cool, but he was like, I'm telling him I'm overworked, I'm doing too much. And he's like, oh, cool, join this board of directors. I'm leaving the hospital and I'm no longer connected, so you should join. I was like, okay, I want to serve. That sounds cool. And, shout out to him. I found out later he was my frat brother. So I'm like, that's some alpha thing. That's the thing alphas would do. And I say that because we see the good in other people. We want them to rise to some unreachable measure. But then my second therapist really helped me figure some things out and realize it's not bad to ask for help. So the board members I had there that were just kind of there on paper, they were able to be people who I asked for help to step up. So by having a team to help me with the day-to-day things, it allowed us to get more contracts. We made about $210,000 on contracts last year, 2021. And that's because school partners trusted us. But a lot of those connections came from people that I had to ask for. Yeah, people that I had to ask for help. So realistically, by having that team really made a difference. And then when the pandemic happened, I didn't care what was going on. The markets got raided, and we needed to give out food. And even though I didn't live in West Philly at that time, I was renting a room so I could be closer to one of our late night contracts by Girard College. It was like a 9 p.m. type job. I needed to make sure that people had food. So what we did was I took my own money and I asked the board for $50 of Eco's money, and we started giving out food and then giving out more food. And then 6 markets were shut down, and we were at all 6 markets giving out food. And then people ended up raising $7,000 on social media in a week. And then we had money for drivers. And then we had hundreds of families signed up. And then we realized we had a bunch of young people that were just hanging out doing nothing because the rec centers got their basketball courts taken down and all of that. And, idle minds. So what we had to do was give them some money. So we was like, look, this older lady needs some help carrying some stuff. We need some help bagging up these bags, and, getting us fresh produce, telling them, all right, this box of 38 or 68 apples cost $30, and we got to, how much is each apple? And then, kind of doing math right on the spot. We're teaching them on the corner and then eventually we were in up to 6 neighborhoods a day. So for the first 2 weeks, we were out there every day. Markets started to open back up, and then we would change neighborhoods every week. So twice a week, we were in different neighborhoods, and then we found our go-to spots. But West Philly is where our roots were, and that's why I decided to reach out to Darius, who we bought the building from, solid brother, who was my landlord first, And yeah, he gave us the Eco Center for $700 a month, 2020. And then we got the back half for $1,000. And then we were doing an event called Party at the Polls that November for the election. And I was talking to him. He said he was doing some things to refi. And I was like, well, look, we want to buy it. And he said, you serious? And I said, yeah. Boy, you don't let that go. Sorry about that. I said, I said, I'm serious. You know, how much is it? And he told us, he said, we need 20%. I said, all right. I know. And then we gave it, and then we bought it. So, here. So that's how that went.
Man, I recognize that the difference between us, even though we're both entrepreneurs, is what you just said. Like, you realize that you had to ask for help.
Yeah.
I'm the type of person, I try to do everything by myself.
Yeah.
And my fiance constantly is like, you captain, save a hoe, you this, you always trying to do everything by yourself.
That's ego.
Is it? Because
ego.
I feel like for me, it's all, well, maybe it is some ego now that I'm thinking about it.
It's all
like,
ego.
I don't know if I can trust somebody else to be able to do the job.
To the standard that you have.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe you're right. You know.
Yeah. You have to be able, someone said if they can do it at least 80% as good as you can, then delegate it. And I've learned sometimes 60 is fine. That's where we're at.
With the therapy. Like,
Through therapy, yeah. Because you got to let stuff go, man. Like, I wasn't just a gunshot survivor, right? Like, sexual abuse survivor, Black in America, Black in a white neighborhood in the 90s. And then, like, all that stuff aside, too, like, what is being a man? My dad's 60th birthday, he wanted to get roasted. I said, I'm going to go last. and it was, I pulled some punches, but just talking about how you didn't let me cry. Like, I was shedding tears in that room because people, one, I know my dad had friends, and two, they had such nice things to say about him. And I was like, wow, like, this man, I get a lot of this stuff from him, So I'm cracking jokes about how he wouldn't let me cry. He said, no, I said you can cry, but the reasons she was crying for were just, not good enough reasons. I said, Dad, physical pain, emotion, it's all pain, bro. Like, Tony Gaskins, I think his name is, from the Man Box, talks about you wouldn't tell an athlete to walk off a broken leg. So why do we tell boys and men to walk off emotional pain and just keep it moving? Like, that's stupid. So, but a lot of times when I want to do things on my own, I don't trust people. It's because I had control issues, and control issues stem from different things. But my second therapist told me, shout out to Tony, the light worker. He told me, control is the number one drug. We do drugs. We drink, we do whatever, try to acquire money and wealth and success so we can have control over ourselves and our situations. And I thought about, only reason why I wanted to get all this money and do all these things because I wanted to be able to hire whoever I want to hire, because I felt so restricted being in schools, not being able to put my money where my mission is, and having a young boy, I can't pay you $10 an hour, but I'm telling you not to be out in this corner. Now I can get the trappers to leave the block alone because they see how hot it is. I'm like, look, what you making? Three? Well, here's $2,000 for the month. There's $2,000. I want you to, one thing I really need, and a bunch of things I'm like, I don't know, bro. Reorganize the comic books. Like dust to dust. Like, I don't know. Like, do something. Like switch the chairs around. Draw a picture. I don't know, color. But just having them out the way and connected to service is what's important. And but going back to like being able to do things on your own, a lot of entrepreneurs aren't willing to let go of their vision. And I'm not saying water down your vision, but when it's collective, like, it's not about me, it's about making sure families eat. And when I realized I couldn't do the Young Boy program how I needed to because I'm showing up late or I'm canceling or I'm whatever, I had to ask Sister Bella, hey, can you step in? Can you hold down Saturdays? And then by her doing that, I was able to grow something else. You only got so much water, and you can't water everything, but you got to trust that other people can water it for you. And sometimes they have, more people pouring into them because they don't wear all the crowns you wear. You know what I mean? So yeah. I know I always say my fiance, well, my wife, we got married like a year ago. But appreciate it. But like her as a support person, like her telling me, I'm not your therapist, I'm your friend at the time. You need to speak to a professional. You can't just keep dumping on your friends all the time. Yeah. We can't be getting drunk and then now you're, you crying or you all uptight, you're not breathing. Like, you about to get an ulcer. Like, what are you doing? So, she taught me into going to therapy and that was really a turning point, and then I could ask for help. But now it's still not easy. I still want to control a lot of things, but I'd rather have peace of mind and work from home with baby boy all day on Zoom or behind a computer and know that my team has it than me micromanaging them in a space where I have to be out there. Getting out the house with a child is ridiculously hard. If y'all don't have children at home, just think about whatever you're doing now and then not doing it if it's fun. And then if it's not fun, think about doing more not fun.
Before it would take 10 minutes, now it's an hour just to
At
get
least,
out the door.
at least. So that's how I forgot my wallet. Come in here.
Yep.
I mean, he had bottles. His bag was ready. I didn't have my wedding ring. I didn't have nothing. Yep. So yeah.
So I have to, with figuring out how to delegate, and I mean, I guess it's my perspective on the world where to find good people like you is rare, who genuinely want to do good. Because, I mean, all we really see is evil. We just see people doing bad over and over again. And to switch that mentality from those people is difficult. How hard was it for you to find your circle?
Well, before you answer that, he did say he was a piece of shit. He said he had to become the guy he is.
Professionally. I mean, I wasn't a piece of shit as a human. I thought I was. And then, ironically, my 30th birthday, my wife had all my peoples and people that I wasn't really as close to write letters to me, and she made a book because she didn't think we'd be able to meet in person. It was 2020, June 2020. Yeah. And people who knew me from college, when I thought I was like, you know, I didn't join my fraternity to the end, so it had no reflection of like some people say, yeah, frat guys. I'm like, nah, I graduated less than a month after crossing. But for me, it was, you know, I just felt like I was trying to sleep with all these girls because I thought that's what being a man was, and I wasn't. And I just felt like there were some sisters that we were better off friends I didn't just stay friends with. Or when I was like in positions of power, sometimes I felt like I abused my power in ways that I was like, you know, like better than, like kind of superiority complex and like, you know, just a lot of ego, just like who I was. We all would look at who we used to be and think like, dang, I could have done so much better comparing ourselves to our past, but that's our lower self. That's who we were. That's a part of the process. So I think I could have been better personally, but of course, professionally, like I was still suicidal. I was perked up all the time. I was on heavy drugs, you know, coming from dealing with survivor's guilt and dealing with all types of stuff from the shooting. Like I died that night and came back and my friend didn't make it. And I'm like, well, why didn't he live? You know, he was always going to work. He was responsible. He was this, he was that. So you deal with some of that stuff and, you know, I'm going to sleep. I could only go to sleep drunk or really, really high. So then I wouldn't get up for work on time. That's what I meant by not being a good employee. Like I was a shitty employee. Like they changed my hours to 1 to 8 and I would still show up late. Like it was bad, bro. Like I wasn't ordering food on time. Like it was just, yeah. So they were looking for a reason. And then, you know, the hard line was you can't have participants in your home or your vehicle. So that's where I crossed the line. So I'm glad it happened though. But finding people, I don't think people are that bad. I think it's a whole lot more good than bad. I think the media will sell you lies because fear sells. Fear is good for the public. War is good for the public, you know, as it relates to oppressive systems and what works for them. I think there's so many people who want to do good and some people don't know how. And if you don't put people in positions that are good for them, then they can't flourish. Like trying to make a fish fly or a bird swim. So you have to be able to do an authentic assessment of who they are, what skills they bring to the table. What skills do you lack? That's really how you build your team. What am I not good at? And that's how I found Tafari, and that's how I found Bella, and that's how I found Rhonda, and that's how I found people who like do all the things that I don't have the patience for or lack the understanding or that's just not my superpower. Thank you, bro. You don't need 10 hammers. You need a hammer, a Phillip head, a flathead, a drill. I don't know how to build stuff, but you need stuff, you know, and, you know, you don't need a bunch of hawks on the team either if you're the Avengers. Like, you need everybody. So,
my man, like, all his sayings, I got to write them down. Yeah. Well, you know, you can't water all the plants.
You can only wear one crown.
Yeah. You wear too many crowns.
I don't know, man. Because I was going to do Dragon Ball Z reference.
You don't only need hammers.
I mean... Oh, man. Nah, bro. It's just, you know, building a team is important. And I think as I move into this next cycle of, especially after hibernation, like, I don't physically have to be places anymore. I picked up a part-time job at Cheney University because, as a programming specialist, because they have a limit on how much they can spend on per contractor, per partner. And we've reached our limit for the fiscal year. So this position opened up and I'm like, cool, I can still do the work, but we don't need to get the credit. But now I can hire people from ECO. I can hire people from ECO's network to do the work. And instead of us doing it and getting paid as a middle person, you just get all that bread because that's my day job. I mean, it's $22 an hour, but it's easy. Like it's what I've been doing anyway. Like, So, and then it allows us to work with other schools because now I can still do eco for other programs or other universities. It's a national grant that hired me, you know. So, I think it's important to be able to step away and do things that serve you. But like I said, checking in on my team and making sure I'm making decisions that building partnerships that are intentional and lasting, and finding sustainable sources of income. So we're not trying to do whatever. And actually, real estate is one of the things. I just got what's that? Nope, not that. I just got
Don't say your real estate license because we're going to end this podcast.
Nah. We're not doing that. What we are doing though, like I just got approved for a home equity line of credit. And
Awesome.
my home is I only bought it like 16, 15 months ago. But they're about to give me all this money for it. And I'm like, oh, we just need to keep buying in this area, $65,000, $85,000, $100,000 houses, whether we do something with them or not, they're going to gain equity. And with that equity, we could then create a share model where our employees now can, if they're there for, the duration of, they commit 4 years or something, they could retire, if you will, and then pull from that equity. Or if they need a loan to fix their credit, they need a loan for a vehicle, a down payment on something, they can borrow against this line of credit that ECO has gained from property. And then we also have that property to help with our housing initiative. So young people who don't have safe places to stay can stay places. Because out of our apartments, we have one that's for emergency housing where a student moved in. He's moving in right now. I said, don't call me before 6. I'll be in the podcast. But he doesn't have housing for the winter break. Yeah. So like we have one unit for that and and another unit is our music studio / storage. But if somebody needs to stay, they can stay there too. But what does it look like? We have a bunch of triplexes, duplexes, 3 bedrooms, whatever. The Umoja House from 1970. I really appreciate what Queen Mother Falaka Fatah was able to create, where they bought a bunch of houses and they had 3,000 young men between the ages of 16 and 24 have safe places to be and not have to worry about the violence. The gangs in Philly were wild at the time, and they ended up doing in 1974 the Imani Peace Pact. And the Imani Peace Pact was when they agreed everyone to put their guns down, and it worked until crack hit. But the Umoja House is it was in West Philly. It started as one space and it grew and kept growing. And by the end of it, they had almost 24 homes and properties and places where they were doing God's work. And that's why I'm like, shoot, we got this money. Down payments is what, $10,000, $40,000. We could put it 5-year mortgages for commercial. We could put 5 years worth of mortgage in the bank account. That's one property. Use the equity from this property to make it's just like, it's easy plays. But that's what I think we need to do moving forward. So that way everyone can get this bread.
Yo, that's a crazy vision that you have, actually. And I'm glad to see that you're doing it with our people in mind. And like for anybody who's watching this, I want them to be able to walk away from this episode and say like, all right, like I see his vision, I'm motivated, but I don't know how to start and I want them to be able to answer that question. So what would you say to your younger self if you can go back to help you, get that head start?
Get help sooner. Get people to help you sooner. Like we had Sister Stephanie and I, a good friend of mine. My mom got breast cancer last year, and I moved back home. So my apartment above the Eco Center and a lot of my responsibilities couldn't get done because I was caring for my mother. And Sister Stephanie moved into my apartment. She moved back from LA and moved into my apartment, and she held it down and helped the work continue for about 6 months. And that's the 6 months I needed for my sister to finish school and move back home so I could have more flexibility at work. So what I would tell myself is get help sooner. Identify who you are, what your skills are, what you're not going to do. Be real with yourself. I'm not a data person. I don't like collecting data. I like surveys, but I don't like to go through it. I don't have fine tooth combs, tedious stuff. That's not me. I'm not the anything before 11 a.m. person. So don't front. That's me. So find people who are. Build your team. And then I would also say Yippee-Ki-Yay Nonprofit Solutions is now called Instant Nonprofit. So you can go at instantnonprofit, probably .com.org. I don't know, Google it. But it's still around $1,100. And we've sponsored nonprofits before. I would say one of your listeners can come to me, contact me. And you can text me at 267-999-9901. That's 267-999-9901, or email me at kyle@theecofoundation.com, or DM me. I'm Kyle the Conductor, and I'll give them 20 hours of coaching over the course of a few weeks to make sure that they have whatever they need. So I'm I really don't care as long as this. I mean, they have to obviously have mission has to align. They can't be like a nonprofit for like the Klan or something. But but whatever they get into, like I'm willing to support them if it's for the good of our people, because liberation can't just happen and by just us. And too often people aren't collaborating with other nonprofits because we're all fighting over the same dollars. And something that the sister from or this Puerto Rican lady from a nonprofit, that name escapes me, but I met her through Impact 100 had an event at her rec center. And what she said was nonprofits were created to silence radicals, to get them to conform to society and what they want. And then similar to how we fight for the resources as individuals and our families fight for resources, they have nonprofits doing the same thing. So we're all scrounging for resources and not necessarily trusting each other because we're going out for the same grants. There was even a grant in Philly where we had to get the most votes in order to, like, the top 10 got 20,000, the bottom 10 got 12,500. Damn. Like, why not just give everybody bread? So, you know, people aren't doing things ethically and equitably. So you have to be able to create these systems and find people who can do those things. Don't lose your fire. Sonia Sanchez said we have to be able to catch the fire that our ancestors started and carried into today. So only way that's going to happen is if we do it together. So yeah, that's what I would tell. That's what I would tell my younger self. And like I said, I'll give 20 hours of my time to someone trying to start a nonprofit from your network.
Shout out to you, damn.
I mean, he's. You said a lot of stuff that, like, in previous podcasts, like me and Larry kind of spoke about, and even having a therapist on one of the episodes. But like one of the bigger things is just finding help therapy, being able to figure yourself out, or trusting somebody else with your emotions or your feelings and just helping guide you, which, you know, men struggle with already, especially men of color. So for you to come on here and say that helped you greatly with your success, I think hopefully people can hear it and be like, all right, then I guess it's time for myself to take that first step in therapy, to take care of yourself first. Because I mean, look at you, you got your family, you got a baby, and that could have never happened if you didn't take care of yourself first. Yeah,
and you're going to pass down who you are to your children anyway. So if you don't do your part, you're going to pass down the worst parts of yourself. Damn. So we owe it to the next generation to take care of ourselves, and black men in particular, men in general, men of color in general, need to take care of their physical health as well. So I'm committing in 2023 to my physical health. I mean, sleeping, we got to sleep, we got to drink water, and, you know, we got to be grateful. So I call it shine, like sunshine, water, like we're plants, we're complicated emotions. That was like a meme I saw, but that's true, you know, and got to eat right, you know, not too much salt, high blood pressure. These are things that are killing us. Like, my son is 8 months old. I'm 32. I want to be here when he's 32. I want to be here when he's a grandfather. And those things are possible, you know. We just got to make sure we do what we got to do. So, yeah.
And even if it's not like so much as like the person hearing this thinking, oh, I got to take care of myself. Like, even if it's the money is the motivation. Yeah. Like, you're only going to grow as big as your person. Like, your mindset is only going to get you but so far. If you don't refine these things and then build upon yourself, you're always just going to be struggling for scraps, because that's what you know, and that's just kind of like who you are in that moment. Yeah. So
thinking small.
Yeah, and that's something I learned when I got here, actually, is because growing up in West Philly is weird. Like, there's people over in Winfield, you know, middle class, upper class families, hella bread, you know, doing all kind of stuff, and then there's people like just across the street, poor, struggling for survival, and you get older and you're like, all right, well, you know, how does that stuff affect us? And you see it because, you know, those people in Winfield, those kids went off to college or, you know, like started families and started business, whatever. But the people on the other side of the street, they scared to lead a block. Yeah. They don't want to go to school. They don't want to lead a corner, because even if they're making $500 a month, they like, oh, this is what I know. This is just where I'm comfortable at. And it's crazy, man. I really hope that everybody is who's listening or is watching is taking away everything that you're spitting today, because I think you dropped a lot of gems today, a lot of like life-changing information, And the fact that you sat on here and offered 20 hours of coaching just speaks to the kind of person that you are. So it's not like you just sitting up here bullshitting. Yeah. Like you're a genuine person, and I appreciate that. I think the world does.
I'm grateful, man. I will say that's only because I've done an assessment. I recognize like the importance of service and helping others. And now as my schedule is like 20 hours or less a week, I should be writing my dissertation. But what I'd rather do is help people. But I know, like my stuff aside, my own needs aside, I want to just make sure that entrepreneurs or whomever out there that's trying to get to the bag, if you don't take care of what's going on internally, it's never going to work. And I used to host bar mitzvahs for a Black-owned entertainment company for 5 years. I retired last year. My little brother still works for them. But the speech that the owner, Leon, gives everybody is whatever you're into now, because we make a lot of money hosting bar mitzvahs. Like now that I'm older, it's still like great money. But like my brother is 22, made 80 racks. Because you're making $400 or $500 is the ground. A party, and you may do 3 parties a weekend, and bigger parties are like $1,200, $1,500. So you can make thousands of dollars in a weekend, and that's its own thing. But he tells us if you gamble, you're gonna gamble more. If you tricking, you're gonna trick more. If you smoking, you're gonna smoke more. So if you don't get that stuff under control, you're gonna be blowing through your money and then asking for an advance. And he's seen it, and I've seen people come and go. I've seen people play with powder here and there, get coked out on some Wolf of Wall Street stuff, and they done, and they fiending for another job, but no one wants them because their mind deteriorated. Right. So, get yourself together, or you're going to ruin everything around you. Or it just won't grow how it's supposed to.
Damn.
5 minutes on it?
Yeah. You want to wrap it, or you got to...
No, I think we're good. I mean, I just want to really thank you. Appreciate you coming on here. Obviously, you got so much going on. You got a lot to take care of, so it really means a lot that you would take the time. I know to come in here.
Grateful.
No, we're grateful, man. Just like he said, to speak the knowledge that you did, because not all of our episodes are the same, right? Some of them are sillier than others. But one thing that me and Larry always wanted to do is, if we're not entertaining somebody by just comedy, we want to educate them. You know what I mean? Like, that's the biggest thing. And when you said earlier that educating through entertainment was what you do.
Yep, edutainment, yep.
That's what me and Larry, even before we started the podcast, it was one thing that we agreed would be important, because the only way people are staying focused on something is if they're having fun with it. Yeah. It could teach them something, but if they're not having fun with it, they're not going to stick around. Yeah. So when you said that, I mean, it resonated with what we're trying to do here as well.
Yeah. We actually do trainings for companies, like setting up one right now with a tech company that has annual mandatory trainings, like retraining programs for 10-year employees or 10-day employees, but it's boring. So they hired us to come in and make their programming fun. We've done it for coffee shops. We've done it for insurance companies. So in the adult spaces, it looks like our big old kids party, where adults are jumping in moon bounces and playing double dutch, eating candy that'll probably hurt their teeth, and drinking drinks named after like Reptar and Aunt Viv and whatever at a skating rink that we all partied at when we were kids, or a community center or whatever. But they're doing it to let their inner child out, because to us, we're raffling off free therapy, and we have raffling off free massages and all of that. But if we're better to the kid inside of us, we're better to the kids around us. So we love doing that event for schools and parents and social workers and people who interact with children. But it's good for everybody. If you may pick up something you forgot you like doing. Like, I think during the pandemic we did too many puzzles and coloring books, but you may pick up something else that you really appreciate. So a quick way for people to figure out who we are, that has all of our info to volunteer, to work with us, to book us, to give us a donation, is whoareyall.com. It was a microsite I created a couple weeks ago for the Black Male Educator Conference, and it's whoareyall, YALL, y'all.com. And it has everything, and at the bottom has our phone numbers and email and all of that. So, and even if you're someone who doesn't, if you're not the first person that gets to 20 hours, we're at 5411 Market Street in West Philly. There has to be a way we can support or serve in some capacity. So let's figure it out.
Well, thanks, Kyle, for coming on. We appreciate you having you on the Man Cave podcast. Wow, I'm exhausted. That's really what it is. All that paintball. But we look forward to speaking with you in the future and catching up what the Eco Foundation is doing. I'm Larry. This is my man George. We out of here. Peace.